So today I'll be continuing with my scheduled discussion and point spread prediction videos. Today I'll be doing UCLA. So UCLA was a pretty big disappointment last season, only finishing 7-5 and 8-5 with the bowl game. They were uh, expected to win around 9 games last season, and it was really their offense that let them down. Uh, it was supposed to be good, and it wasn't very good. They averaged just under 26 points per game, and their defense uh, actually was a lot better than it had been in 2022. But the future doesn't look bright for UCLA's football program because uh, Chip Kelly, who was their head coach, and also their offensive coordinator, left them in February, which was a bad time because that was after the season had already ended, so they couldn't really try to get someone decent to replace them. And they also lost their defensive coordinator who had fixed their defense. And mm, they have a much different roster now, and they also lost quarterback Dante Moore, mm, who was only a freshman last season, but was one of the top recruits of 2023, and was the future of their offense and really the future of their team. Uh, and this schedule is kind of strange, and it's not real easy either. Uh, it's strange because they take their first week off after playing only one game, and they start their conference schedule in their second game, which is unusual. Uh, and they also play a non-conference game to end the season, and teams almost never play a non-conference game at the end of their season. And I only see one pretty much for sure win on their schedule, and even that's not 100%. But I'd say it's probably a 90 something percent sure win for them. Their opener mm, against Hawaii. Uh, and uh, then mm, uh, Fresno State. Mm, mm, I know they're not Power Four, but I don't think that's a sure win at all for UCLA. I think it's kind of a 50-50 game because Fresno State is one of the best non-Power Four teams, and they can beat bad Power Four teams usually. And with this crazy new rule and the college football playoff, that there will have to be a team that's not in the Power Four get a playoff spot. I think Fresno State could be that team this year. Uh, and uh, Indiana, their first conference game, it will be a very winnable one for them. It's nice to have that one at home. Uh, and Indiana is not very good. But UCLA, I don't think is going to be very good this year either. And then they play LSU on the road as their Power Four opponent in the non-conference. That's a really tough one to have for a non-conference game. It's so hard to win at LSU, and LSU is, I think, going to be much better than UCLA. I would not give UCLA much of a chance to win this one, and LSU is probably going to win it fairly easily, I think. And then they play Oregon, and there's no chance at all that UCLA can win this game. Oregon's just going to be way too good. They're probably going to get blown out by Oregon. Uh, and then uh, Penn State on the road, not much of a chance in that one. Uh, Penn State, like LSU, is a real tough place to play, and they're going to be much better than UCLA. So that's a horrible three in a row there against LSU, Oregon, and Penn State. That has to be one of the toughest three in a rows this year. Uh, and those will be their three toughest games in this season, I think. Uh, and then they get a more winnable game against Minnesota at home. That's a nice game to have at home. But I think Minnesota is probably a little bit better than Indiana, and uh, they might even be better than UCLA this year. I don't know right now. Uh, and then they play on the road at Rutgers. Now, this is a very winnable game. Rutgers is not very good, but I'm not so sure that UCLA is going to be any better than Rutgers this year. Uh, and then they take a week off before playing on the road at Nebraska. That's a nice time for a week off in between the two road games like that that aren't going to be impossible to win. Uh, Nebraska, I think, will probably be better than UCLA this year. I think they're finally going to have a better year. Uh, and then Iowa at home. Uh, this will be real tough uh, with Iowa's defense and Iowa's offense. Uh, I know you know is horrible, but I'm not so sure that UCLA's is going to be a whole lot better than Iowa's. Mm, and then on the road at Washington. Washington won't be anything like they were last year, but I still think they're a little better than UCLA, and that's a pretty tough place to play too. Uh, I think right now that would probably be a loss for UCLA. And then they play USC. They're a crosstown rival. Uh, mm, and I know UCLA actually beat USC pretty badly last year, but that was because UCLA had a much better defense than USC did. And now USC has that defensive coordinator from UCLA. I think this will be close, and UCLA will for sure have a chance. But it's I think it's going to be really hard for them to beat them again because I think USC is going to have an improved offensive line. And now I'll move on to the point spread prediction. So if you want to see more about these, you can watch my Ohio State video, the first one. I explain it in that. But games in the blue are games where I think UCLA will be favored by double digits, 10 to 19 points. So not a blowout, but not a close spread. And there's one of those, Hawaii. Uh, and games in the purple are games where I think they'll be favored by about a touchdown, 6 to 9 points. And there's one of those, Indiana. And games in the pink are games where I think they'll be favored to win by about a field goal, so 1 to 5 points. And there's two of those, Minnesota and Fresno State. Uh, and games in the mm, gray are games where I think UCLA will be about a field goal underdog, so 1 to 5 points. And there's four of those: Rutgers, Nebraska, Iowa, and USC. Uh, and games in the yellow are games where I think UCLA will be an underdog by about a touchdown, so 6 to 9 points. And there's one of those, Washington. And games in the orange are games where I think uh, UCLA will be a double digit underdog, but not a blowout underdog, so 10 to 19 points. And there's three of those, LSU, Oregon, and Penn State. Uh, so Hawaii, I think UCLA will be favored by at least 17. Uh, in this game, maybe 18 or 19. And it could even end up being in the green, which those games are games where they would be a blowout favorite, which I didn't see any on UCLA's schedule for sure. But Hawaii might end up mm, eh, being like that. And Indiana. I think home field advantage for UCLA is just enough to put that in the purple. I think UCLA will probably be around a 6 point favorite in that game. Uh, and Minnesota, this is only in the pink because it's a home game. I think UCLA may be about a point favorite in that game, but I have no doubt they'd be the underdog if it was a road game. Uh, and Fresno State, this is a tough one. I think UCLA may be favored by around 3 because it's a home game. But I wouldn't be shocked if this was a toss up or even UCLA was a small underdog. Uh, and mm, Washington, mm, I think because it's a road game, uh, they'll be about a 6 point favorite over UCLA. Mm, And Rutgers, because it's a road game, I think they might be favored by about a point against UCLA. But UCLA would be favored at home, I think. And mm, they would probably be favored at home against Nebraska, but because it's a road game, I think Nebraska will probably be about a 3 point favorite. Uh, and Iowa, I think they'll be favored by 4 or 5 points in that game. Uh, and USC, I think they will probably be about a 3 point favorite against UCLA, but that is a tough one. I could see it being a toss up or UCLA maybe being favored. But right now, I think USC uh, looks like a better team uh, than UCLA, at least by a little bit. Uh, and LSU, I think UCLA will be a 2 touchdown underdog against them. And I think they'll be about a 2 touchdown underdog against Oregon and Penn State also. I think they'll be the underdog by around 14 points in all three of these games. And that will be it with this video. And thanks for watching. And please subscribe. And I'll be back soon. And uh, thank you to the other new subscriber that I got today. I really appreciate it.